This is Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu Podcast, episode 017. I'm Isaac Tauaefa, and I'm here with my boys.
Josh Straussberger.
JP Dinnell.
It's great to be here with you guys, man. JP, it's good to have you back.
It's good to be back, and now we're missing Steven.
Yeah, I know.
Sucks.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say that word on this podcast?
Yeah.
Okay. That's an approved word.
Okay. It's not like causing problems.
Yeah.
It's a bummer. I'll say
It is
that.
a bummer.
It's a bummer.
It's a bummer, dude.
Because I know there are some kids that listen that their parents probably, I don't want my kids saying, so
Yeah.
it's a bummer. It's a bummer that Steven's not
that's
here.
good. Cleaning it up. I
You
appreciate
guys covered
that.
down the last time I had to miss, and now we're covered down for Steven. I mean, he is in a full-on sprint right now with little Calico, so let's go.
Let's go. I'm ready.
What do you got, Ike?
Well, man, so we want to obviously dive into our podcast sponsors first and foremost, just to honor them. We really appreciate you giving us the opportunity to be able to record this podcast. So I think I'm going to have Josh talk about our friend Kimmy
Turk.
Yeah.
Excuse me. We said a little bit about what she is doing down there in, is that South Texas, I guess?
Yep.
Yeah, considered South Texas. And the Warrior Angels in Boots. It's a 5K race, fundraising for veterans and military and whatnot. And I think we put the link up last time where people can go check it out if they want to go attend, if they just want to support. But we appreciate her supporting us and sponsoring the podcast. One note on that, I do know we had mentioned last time that she was training for the ADCC in Dallas. And
I was going to bring that up. Yep.
I don't have it in front of me, but I'm pretty sure she placed second.
I saw something
Silver,
like that.
I think. I think she had 3 matches. Yep. Again, she might yell at me. But, she did really well, so that was good training. So shout out to her for that. Yeah, she definitely went and trained. And I think she might have been down in the adult division. I know sometimes us masters, not that I'm saying anything about I'm digging myself a hole.
No, she's about our age, I think.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
I was about to call myself old.
Yeah. Well, whatever.
So,
my wife's old. I'm not. That's like
we share that.
Yeah. Our wives are 2 years older than us. So
That's legit.
you get away with that. No, but Kimmy, she's out there just training hard and signing up to go do that. It's pretty legit.
That's
Pretty
hardcore,
legit.
man.
And
That's
apparently
not an easy
there
division.
was 1,500 people at that, I think. It was their first one. It's pretty legit. So we appreciate her. We appreciate her support. And big shout out to her for her efforts and her training.
Thanks, Kimmy. Yeah. Also, Steven, our boy Steven is really good at this entire
Promoting
segment
Jocko
here,
Fuel,
promoting Jocko Fuel and explaining all of the. I actually learned a lot from Steven, just learning about the products of Jocko Fuel, listening to him do a spiel every time. So we have to thank Jocko Fuel for sponsoring this podcast as well. They have a bunch of amazing products. Of course, there are a whole bunch on the table. If you're not watching the podcast, you need to be watching on the YouTube channel. Yes. That way you could see all of the different flavors of Jocko Go we have in front of us. We're about to crack some of these bad boys open, and I think we need to dedicate it to Steven.
To Steven, for sure, yeah.
All right.
This is the equivalent to pouring a 40 out for your birthday. This is the Christian version.
It's for my homies.
For my homie.
2, 1.
That was Chris.
How dare you? It was me.
That was good. Yeah, hey, if you're going to get anything from Jocko Fuel or Origin USA, you can go to jockofuel.com, originusa.com, and use the code JJJ10 as in Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu, 10 as in 10, because it'll save you 10% on almost all the products. Some of the products is like 5% that you'll save. Some of the unique products, like the hunting line when it first comes out, or something that they're doing a limited edition run, I don't think they run the discount codes on, which as a business they shouldn't. They don't need to, and it's actually smart the way that they do that. Somebody hit me up one time, they're like, hey, your code didn't work on this. I'm like, what's a limited edition run? It works on everything else. And the guy was like, that actually makes sense as a business. It was funny. They were a little frustrated, and then they thought okay. And the other thing is that's cool too is Now, I know, like, I have people that, used to use my old code, and now they're using the Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu code, which is incredible. I used to have people that wouldn't use the code. They're like, no. I'm willing to pay full price because I believe in what Pete and Amanda are doing and everybody at Origin and Jocko Fuel. And I'm like, that's amazing. Like, they're like, hey, it's going back to American workers. Like, I'm good with that. So, anyways, we appreciate all the support. It's really cool to see the emails that come through that say, hey, another commission. And like Isaac and Josh and Stephen have talked about before, those commissions help us grow the ministry. As of right now, we haven't had to buy any Bibles because they've been donated to us from Matt and Michelle Russell at Walking in Truth Ministries that host the Pursuit events that we've talked about. We've also had other people offer to donate Bibles, but we do have costs associated with the podcast, like this right now, our time here for the podcast to be recorded and produced and everything that is taken care of that legitimately none of us had the bandwidth to do or the desire to learn that skill set, but we also were obedient, knew that we had to be obedient when the Lord said, hey, start this podcast.
Yep.
Okay, cool. How are we going to do that? Okay, boom. I had this connection and I was like, this is incredible. This is the most amazing thing ever. And then it's like, okay, well, the sponsors help it out. The people that use the code helps it out. And then next month we're going to Castle Rock, Colorado to host our first out-of-state Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu event, which those commissions that we've been getting is going to help pay for the gas, hotel, meals, and we're running on a super tight budget, which is awesome. Yeah. But that help that that we get from people using the code at at Jocko Fuel and Origin Maine is incredible. Again, that's JJ10. And what's also cool about that website is all the information that you said you learned from Stephen about the products. They all have it there.
Yeah,
it's incredible. The amount of transparency and all the great stuff there is really cool. So great company, supporting Americans, bringing manufacturing back to America, providing awesome, clean supplements that are actually healthy for you. They're good for you, and it's only going to make you a better version of who you are. So we appreciate all the support.
Factual.
I love it, man, because it's a combination, just like Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu, two things that we're passionate about, that we love, that we are about, and it's really cool when people get to benefit the ministry by also doing something they were already going to do and buy some awesome American-made products and some great healthcare products as well. So we appreciate you guys, and like JP said, it is in the beginning we really are, and we have been still. We're like bootstrapping it. We're heavily invested into this ministry because we believe in it and we are called to it, and so we spend a lot of our time and our resources to stand it up because God called us to do it. But it is a blessing when these commissions and even podcast sponsorships are stacking up to a place where we are able to travel and to stand up our events in other markets, buy Bibles, purchase merchandise to be able to sell to benefit the ministry. So we appreciate you guys. Thanks.
That's awesome.
Big time.
Anything else? I have a subject I like to dive into.
Yeah, come on. Bring it, bro.
Okay. No.
I'm nervous.
I'm nervous.
I'm nervous.
First one, just talking about discipline equals freedom. I know we've talked about it before, and just bringing it up because it was cool. Like last week, my wife and I got the keys to a new home, and we were able to move into a new home. And for me, it was cool because it was something that my wife really wanted, and what our kids really wanted as well. To me, honestly, like I could travel, I could just live in different places. Like I don't really to me, buying a home isn't a big deal. It literally doesn't mean anything to me. But you know who it means a lot to? My wife. And so that makes it important to me. And it was cool to be able to be in the position to be able to buy my family like a nice home where they feel comfortable, they feel safe. And, it was just to be able to check that off the list of like, okay, hey, we've been working really hard to do this. And the reason why I'm bringing up discipline equals freedom is because, we've been, when I say working hard, we've been working hard for 6.5 years with Echelon Front, like gone nonstop, me traveling, Amanda covering down with the kids. Like there's just a lot of things that I've missed out on with the kids. I was listening to the podcast that was released today that you're talking about, man, that time is fleeting, and it's so true. And it's only going to fleet faster the older your kids get, Ike. So you got to cherish those times as much as you can. I can't properly articulate that to where it's like clearly understood of how fast that time goes. And so for me, like just the discipline of just grinding it out, doing something I love, it wasn't that hard to be disciplined doing what I do with Echelon Front. To be honest, like I love what I do. It's incredible to be able to work with Jocko and Leif and the whole team constantly is absolutely incredible. You know, I mean, when we hired on Cody Gandy and, you know, he immediately started like, okay, hey, what can I take off your plate? And he was taking stuff off my plate and got to the point where he was doing everything for the field training exercise program. It allowed me to have a promotion and growth within the company to be our chief training officer. And that's simply because, you know, we were working what we know to be true.
Right.
It's, you know, it's the principles that we teach. Being disciplined with those principles, those laws of combat, those mindsets of victory, you know, it gave us freedom to grow Echelon Front, and we're still growing it. And then it also gave me that freedom with my family as well. And, you know, understanding that those, a lot of like just weeks, not just nights here and there, but weeks of limited sleep and traveling back and forth, like, I love all that. I love every aspect of that. And so for me, again, it wasn't hard to be disciplined doing that. Just like when I was going through BUDS. I mean, I was in boot camp when 9/11 happened, and I was going through BUDS, and we had instructors coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan as instructors now, talking about Iraq and Afghanistan. You're hearing those stories. How hard do you think it was to be disciplined going through training at that time?
Yeah, it was go time.
It was go time. It wasn't hard, you know? And so for me, doing what we do at Echelon Front, I'm very thankful for that. And the reason why I'm sharing that with you is if you're listening and you're just grinding it out and you're miserable, you need to find something else. Because if you're miserable, now this is not, this is JP's opinion, all right? This is just my opinion. But I feel that if you're grinding it out and you're miserable, you're not fulfilling what God has for you to be doing.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't think, like, if God designed you to do something, you're not going to be miserable with the process. You're going to love it. You're going to cherish it. It's going to fulfill you. It's like what, you know, Pete's like, bro, I don't wake up to an alarm. He goes, I wake up ready to go every single day, you know, and that's because he has a passion. And you can't tell me that God did not design Pete Roberts to do what he does with Origin. The way that man's brain thinks and how just default aggressive he is and intelligence he is to literally bring back to life a dying industry, it's incredible.
Right.
And then I look at like what Jocko does and Dave Burke and Jamie and Leif Babbitt and all the people I get to work with, they're clearly walking in the path that God had created for them. So it allows them to be able to work through those things and to do the things that most people look at and they're like, man, that's miserable. I couldn't do that. I wouldn't want to do it. It's like when I was going through BUDS or even like in a SEAL team and deploying in combat, people are like, man, that must have been horrible. I'm like, it was awesome. Like, it was awesome. Ramadi was awesome. Afghanistan was awesome. Baghdad, those deployments were awesome because I was doing what God had intended for me at that point in my life.
Right.
Yeah.
At that point in my life.
Yeah.
And that was something I had to recognize when it was time for me to transition out of the military, is I had to switch my focus and then be disciplined on something else again.
Right.
So, you know, I'm just sharing that, just the general thought process and reminder of being disciplined. And when you're disciplined, you're honoring God because you're working hard and you're doing the most with what you've been given.
Yeah.
And I think it's incredible. You know, I look at my parents, like how hard of workers they are, you know, and, Josh, you've been around my dad a few times and, you know, just like, I mean, just his mindset is incredible. I mean, he lost his arm a year and a half ago. He had to have it amputated, yet he's still constantly thinking of like, okay, hey, what can I do right now? What can I do? I got to get back in the game. I got to, you know what I mean? And he's just like, this constant drive. And me and my dad, we were talking about, you know, it was a random conversation about addictions and, you know, addictive personality. And I was like, you have an addictive personality, Dad. And it was over the phone. He kind of paused because he didn't like.
Yeah, where are you going with this?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, yours is working out. Thank God.
Right, yeah.
You know, like we all have addictive personalities, you know, for the most part, especially in our family. Like it's definitely there. but what are you addicted to?
Right.
And my dad's always been disciplined, and same with my mom. They've always been disciplined with their relationship with the Lord and hard work, and that like set the path for all of us to pretty much do the same thing. And I still look at my parents to this day like working hard, like just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's just awesome to see that.
Still going.
Yeah, they're still going. And you know, it was also really cool like being able to buy this house is for me, like I want to have my parents over in the next couple of days. They haven't been able to come over. They were out of town. They're smart. They went to the mountains of New Mexico during this heat wave here. It's like they were the smart ones. I'm like, cool, let's be moving when it's 115 degrees real feel. But anyways, so my parents, you know, because my mom's birthday last week and, you know, my dad's birthday was at the beginning of the month. And so they got away for a week, which was cool. Went and visited my aunt. And, you know, I was just like thinking about like when I get to bring them over the house of just being able to like, hey, thank you for what you've taught us kids.
Yeah.
You know, thank you for instilling hard work and discipline into our life, because I wouldn't have been able to buy the house that we bought if it wasn't for hard work and discipline. If I wouldn't have been very frugal with our money and saved and been diligent, you know, with the gifts that were given to us, you know, if it wasn't for that mindset, I guess you would say, that my parents instilled into us. So I just want to open it up like, hey, if you're not happy doing what you're doing, do an evaluation of yourself. Like you really have to do an honest self-evaluation and say, okay, I'm not happy, which I get. Hey, we've all had to do stuff that we're not happy to provide.
That's the dichotomy, right?
Yes, and that's the dichotomy. And this is not an excuse to just not go do work.
Yeah.
Hey, if you have some tight times right now, go get a second job. Go get a third job. I've done all those things. We've all done those things. You should be doing those things. And it doesn't mean that you're going to go find the dream job, but you're being disciplined and diligent with your abilities. But if your main thing makes you miserable, find something else.
Right.
It's not worth it.
No.
It's not. It's not worth it. And now somebody might say, man, I make really good money there. But you're miserable.
Yeah.
And that misery will slowly kill you, and you will lose your health. And what do people do when they lose their health? They try to buy it back. Right. It's like whatever they can do to buy it back. You can't. Again, there's a dichotomy there to what I'm saying. I understand. But I just wanted to open that up. I'm just so thankful for what my parents have instilled into us. And then obviously, you know, for what I get to do at Echelon Front. You know, I just, you know, we've been unpacking. You guys have been helping me out, which has been absolutely incredible. And Josh and I got the home garage gym set up. And it was cool. Like, just took a little picture and video and sent it to Jocko and Leif and Cody and Dave and Jamie and a bunch of. And I was like, "Thank you," because they've also allowed me to be able to do this. So, anyways, that's all I want to start off with. Just
no, you're spot on that, and I think, I mean, finding that thing, like you may not find it immediately, and like I said, there's different seasons. So like you were saying, when you were deployed, at that time, that was the thing for you.
Yeah,
that had to change. Now it doesn't always change. You may find the end all be all, and go with it, and that's great. But like even Echelon Front, the little bit that I get to do, it's hard work.
Yeah,
and it's, you know, sometimes it's a week long away from the family, and it's a little sleep, but it's so rewarding, like even for me on the side that I do. So like I see that it's the same for what I get to do with Total Fitness Kickboxing. Like I don't think anybody just opens a gym like, hey, I'm going to make a ton of money now. But the whole purpose of that, which I've shared on previous episodes, is it's the catalyst for me that got me working out again. It's actually how I found jiu-jitsu. It's how I met JP. Was all through that gym, and then getting to give that back to people. Like, I don't wake up and think, oh, I got to go into the gym today. And also the dichotomy of that is I have a great team, and I don't have to go every day. It doesn't mean I'm not working on things for the gym every day.
Different work.
It's different work,
and it's strategic. That's what you should be doing as an owner. You should be running your business like a business. And yeah, and I think it's cool that you teach, and you should once in a while. Like, you should get in there and mix it up. But the fact that you have built up a team and you've taught them how to do your job, that's a sign of a true leader, is to make yourself where you're not needed. Right. Like, should be the goal of all
I always
of us.
joke with my assistant manager, Sadie, I'm like, hey, I'm going to come in this time today, or I'm not coming today. You don't need me.
Yeah. You're like, you don't need me.
And she knows it, but it's good. But to the point of what you're saying, like it's absolutely right. Like there are times in life where you have to just buckle down and do a job because food costs, and like you have a responsibility as a man. Like you can't. That's it. If you're using that as an excuse to not work, you're missing the point of everything JP just said. But if you're in something and like he said, it's sucking your soul out, or you have no time for anything and you're just miserable, evaluate. Find something that you're called to and do.
Yeah. And I know Ike has something I will forget this thought. Are you good with me real quick? So, that's why I love, I was listening to the episode that you guys, the last one that you guys did, and I was thinking about how, just being more mindful and intent, having intent with the kids. And that's something Amanda and I have been trying to be better at. Amanda's good at it. I'm trying to be better at it, if we're being real.
Same.
And it was funny. We were driving the other day, and the kids they'll ask like random questions, which I love because it's like, and Cora goes, "Dad, do you ever think we'll be rich?" And like, okay, they're 11 years old. And I said, "Well, what's your definition of rich?" She goes, "I don't know." So let me ask you a question. I said, "What if I made $1 million a year?" And they're like, "Oh," I'm like, okay, just listen to what I'm saying. I'm not saying I make $1 million.
You said the magic number.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh my gosh.
I've heard of this.
This is a hypothetical situation, you nerds. And I said, well, just bear with me on this one. And I was like, hey, let's just say I made $1 million a year, but I was gone all the time. Like, I'm missing Sundays with you guys. I can't go to church because I've got to go travel. And I'm literally gone, until Friday or sometimes Saturday. And I'm only home long enough to do laundry, and then I'm gone, or then when I'm home, I'm at an office, and I'm at the office before you guys wake up, and I'm there until you guys go to bed. And I don't get to say goodnight to you guys. And sometimes like I'm in a meeting and I don't even get a call to say goodnight to you guys. And I don't get to take your mom out on dates. And so I'm like, starting to like give all these things. I was like, or what if I made half that? I only made, which I know this is a lot of money, but I'm trying to get this but I only make half of that money.
Yeah.
But I'm home all the time. And I get to take you guys to the park, and I go to Jiu-Jitsu every single night with you guys, and we get to train, and I read books, and we get to put you to bed. I get to take mom out on dates. They're just going through all that. And both Cora and Noel at the same time were like, $500,000 all day.
Yeah.
Now they don't understand how much money that is.
I'm
like, I want that. Like, it's incredible. But for them, it was cool for them to understand, like, hey, like, what is real wealth?
What are you judging that by?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to me, it's time freedom.
Yeah.
That's the goal. Is to create wealth that you have time freedom. So I was trying to explain that to them, and that requires discipline. Discipline equals freedom. And again, when I say wealth, this isn't a money thing. There is no number associated with it. Like, to me, that's wealthy. Like, if I, can take my kids to jiu-jitsu every single night. I regularly get to take my wife out on dates. Like, we're homeschooling the kids, and I'm able to help out with that stuff. I can run to Marty B's Coffee in the morning and go get coffee for my wife, and bring back breakfast tacos for the kids as they're getting ready. I get to go to every single Sunday. I'm going to church with them. I'm able to help the church and the youth program and go to church. To me, bro, I'll take that all day long. That's my goal. That's what I'm working towards. And it was cool to see that our kids were like kind of starting to understand that, which is awesome. And anyway, so I just wanted to share
it's awesome you were able to paint the picture, because they weren't thinking in those terms, but you were painting the picture of this is actually what it means to be rich. It's not just about the money; it's about the freedom to take care of the family and spend time together. Yeah. Man, I'm in that season right now. I'm grinding. It's difficult right now because of a lot of things that we have going and that we're starting up, and you and I are starting a company up, and we got the ministry and my title job and all these other things, my 3 kids and my wife. But so this is just sort of an add-on to something you were talking about earlier when you were saying that it was a caveat or it was the dichotomy piece of what you were talking about. We've already established it is a dichotomy. If you're miserable in what you're doing, there are going to be seasons where you're struggling. Yes. They're going to struggling, meaning finding the energy to continue. But I don't ever run out of. I know where I'm going. I know what my goal is. And that is what I think you're urging people to find, because you can endure anything. Yeah. You can endure seasons of being a pizza delivery man because you know this is not where I'm going to be forever. This is a temporary step to provide for my family, but I know what my goal is for my life and for my family, and so I can continue. I can push through this. And so I'm in that season right now where I need to be reminded of the work that I'm doing, what it is for, and ultimately it's for God's glory. Yes. And it's also for the benefit of my family and leaving a legacy for my kids. But while you were talking earlier, I wrote down the scripture. I shared it on my Instagram the other day. It's Colossians 3, verse 23 and 24. And I know you have a scripture you want to share. This is just tagging on. I don't know.
Let's dive into it. Who knows?
So it says, whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the inheritance as your reward. You are serving the Lord Christ. I don't always feel like I'm serving God when I'm working hard, and I don't feel like, and Kim is really good about always appreciating the work that I do. She's always good about words of affirmation, for sure, is my love language, and she knows that. I can go forever on her just saying, honey, I love what you're doing for our family, and without your hard work, we wouldn't have what we have. Just that line right there, I'm like, cool, bro. Back on it.
All four of us got so fortunate. Yes, with the wives that we have.
You're right,
because your wife is so good at that with you. Yep. And Josh, your wife, we don't deserve our wives. No. But I'm thankful
Absolutely
we got them,
not, bro.
But
and you can endure so much with that, with your wife in your corner. Just saying that, but I needed this scriptural reminder. I needed to hear from the Holy Spirit. I needed to feel in my heart. God sees all the work that you're doing in your life. God, and this is so much more benefit. This is so much. It's worth so much more than just me getting a new realtor client or, us getting something going with our investing thing. It's so much more meaningful than that. It means so much more. It is for the glory of God. And so when I'm struggling, when I feel like, man, I'm overwhelmed, or I don't have enough time for all these things, or I'm dropping the ball in certain places, and I'm just wishing that this season of my life would be over. All right, come on, let's get to the next step so I can finally have some stability there. This scripture came at the perfect time for me, just to remind me that God sees the work and that I'm serving Him. I'm not serving people. I'm not working to make other people happy. I'm not working even to make my wife happy, although I do want to do that. I'm not working to make my bosses happy. I'm working for the glory of God. And so it doesn't matter if they thank me for it. It doesn't matter if I get paid adequately for it right now in this season. It matters that God gets the glory. So anyway, I had to share that with you because it was super encouraging to me. And you were talking about your dad, your parents being faithful to the Lord and being extremely hard workers. It sounds like this was the motivation for their heart and their work, to work heartily as for the Lord and not unto man. So
yeah. I say that's our verse, and we dive a little bit deeper into it, because I don't know, I love that. And as you're reading that verse, and I'm listening, and I'm just kind of thinking, I want to hear some of Josh's thoughts on that, and we can, as we say, pull the thread on it.
Yeah,
and
let's
dive
pull
a
the thread
bit deeper, because I think it's a really good verse. And what was special for me was it was Friday night. There's been so many people that have reached out, be like, hey man, if you need help, let me know. Which I was like, man, that is such a blessing. Literally, too many people reached out to help that I couldn't even get back to everybody. I still haven't responded to some of the people, and but it was cool because one of the nights is, Justin Blythe, who owns 360 Fitness down in Keller. He's Amanda and I's trainer, and now he works for us at Echelon Front, and he was helping out for a little over a year, very consistently, and then came on board, and he knew I was going through all this stuff, and dude, his workload right now with Echelon Front, all the stuff he's doing is insane. Gets done with all that stuff, takes his girlfriend out to dinner, and then they both just show up. He didn't act, he was like, hey, I'm coming over. I'm like, cool. And you're like, I'm coming over, cool. I'm like, okay, cool, this is amazing. I don't want to burden anybody.
No, I know.
And you knew that. And you're like, bro, I'm coming over. And Josh did the same thing.
I'd
His
ask
wife
Josh
was
for the
there.
address.
And, Steven and his wife are doing
Yeah,
the same thing.
yeah.
And I'm just so frustrated with myself because nothing was where it should have been. That was 100% on me. And there's just the joy of just all you guys, the husbands and wives and kids just showing up and helping. I was like, good Lord, I don't deserve any of these people, but I'll take them. I love them. And then we get to the house, and Ryan Kramer, he's there.
Yeah,
He's just like,
yeah.
hey, he's there unloading.
Yep.
And the reason why I'm painting this picture is just like, I got super emotional because we're like walking through everything. Like, okay, hey, here's where the boxes go. And, it's a nice house, and I'm very thankful for it. And, it was cool because Ryan, you guys had all said it, but it was just the way Ryan said it at that moment. It overwhelmed me. It was just like, man, I love seeing my friends win.
Yep.
And I was just like, just got super emotional.
This house has allergies.
Yeah,
man.
I know.
Yeah,
This
this
real bad allergies.
horrible.
We should
Beautiful
probably-
house,
Yeah.
but bad allergies.
And I got, because you guys had said the same thing earlier that day. And it was a combination of all of you guys were sitting there. And I'm in my closet and in the bathroom closet area. And at the other house, what I've always had on the shelf was that Marco's Pizza hat sitting there as a reminder. Every time I go in my closet, I look at it, I see it, it's a reminder. And, and Ian Hamilton, who was there helping too. He drove up 2 hours and, stayed with us to help out, and just like, hey, legitimately 6.5 years ago, I was delivering pizzas just to try to make ends meet. And then to be able to buy, a beautiful home for my family was just, I'm very thankful for that, and it just shows like, and you and I have talked about this, like, man, we're all in different seasons.
Yep.
And, age wise, I was like thinking like time frame. I think I told like you and Steve, I'm like, bro, you guys are all living my 6.5 years ago.
Bro,
You know what I mean?
really?
Like you're there.
I'm not.
Let's keep going.
I might literally start delivering some pizzas. I think that's a good move. I'm like, man, that might be the path.
But
That's legit,
It was
dude.
it was just cool to be there, and I
That
will
was
say,
super cool.
The coolest thing that I heard, and I Josh was there, and I think I told you this. It's I don't want to air people's laundry, but somebody had said to me that was been just knows like this whole process, and he said, this makes me proud that I went legit.
Yeah. Oh,
He
yeah.
goes, because, and again, I don't want to share people's names for whatever reasons. I don't think he would care, but he was just sharing, he's like, man, a lot of people made fun of me for going legit, meaning he wasn't going to sell drugs anymore and he wasn't going to do the things that he used to do, saying that he would never have. He goes, bro, 6.5 years ago, you were delivering pizzas and asking for an additional 2 hours of overtime work,
Right.
just for that minimum wage. He goes, I'm next.
Yeah.
And it was just like really cool for him to like have that understanding, as you're saying, like
Yeah.
just having that obedience
Yep.
and understanding, and that's the thing. Again, going back to my parents, just always seeing them being obedient. And I remember hearing my dad one time say, because somebody had done my parents wrong, and he goes, I'm not praying for them enough. And I was like, wait,
Ooh.
what? 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 Like, I remember I was like, I couldn't comprehend that. Like, my dad was praying for forgiveness and praying blessings upon this person that had screwed over my
Legitimately
parents.
done them wrong. Yeah.
Yes. Legit. And you're just like
What?
I couldn't comprehend that. And now as an adult, I'm like, well, I'm glad he showed me those examples.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anyways, I love that verse. Josh,
Oh,
anything
one
else?
thing, I don't know if it ties directly to the verse, but one thing that I don't even remember who told me this, but it's something that kind of struck home was, like, even if you're in that season, and I always think back to like my dad or even my mom and stepdad, like when you're in the season, like you said, you're just grinding,
Yep.
and you're like, man, I'm just wishing to be out of this. But you also have to be careful with that,
Yep.
because that time, that section of life where you're living from here to here, that's your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where your
Right.
kids are growing and watching you. So like,
Yeah.
and I'm talking to myself, but like it's real easy to just I'm just going to put my head down and get through this, and we're going to get to this next phase, and I can't wait to be out of this season. Like, your life is happening in this season right now.
Really
the
good.
season when you're having to
You're
deliver
right.
pizzas, the season when you're scrubbing toilets.
Yep.
This is your life.
That's
So-
like the same concept as when people are like, man, I wish my kid, they're crawling. I can't wait till they're walking.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't wait until it's the next thing. It's
And-
like, no, enjoy that right now.
And then the next thing you know, they're 13, almost 14.
Yeah.
And yeah.
They're challenging me to arm wrestling.
Yeah, right.
competitions like Jake did.
Boldly challenged him to arm wrestling competition.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah,
Another
yeah.
one. It was incredible. Like, he was just like full on convinced he was going to beat me in arm wrestling. I'm like,
I love it because he's such a quiet dude. He's just always laid back, listening to other people. So for him to be like, all right, let's go, it makes me laugh.
amazing. There's another challenge too.
He fought, so after we'll mini dive into
This is
it.
Josh's son.
So yes,
Josh's
he
son is 13 going on 14.
he's been a big help, but he he issued this challenge. He lost, so he already knew the consequences of that. In the midst of this, Steven is there at the same time. We are deciding to like help him before he jumps in anything else. JP comes up with another challenge, and he immediately is like, "Let's go!" Like he's just jumping from.
If you're on YouTube, you can see this. Which again, like Ike was saying, if you're on YouTube, you can see this, and you should be on YouTube.
Yep.
Also, it helps with the rankings and other stuff for the podcast. But anyways, I jokingly say this other challenge, and he looks at me and points at me in my face. He goes, "What?" He goes, "Yep."
Yeah.
And I was like,
And we're like, what?
and the challenge was calf raises.
Calf raises.
No, not JP.
Steven
No, okay.
pulls him aside. And he maybe don't challenge him to physical things, Jake.
It's amazing.
Are we talking sheer volume? I mean, I can't think of a
like
way
he
that
had
he
to
beat
keep
you.
up. No, it was volume. He had to keep up with my pace count.
Yeah.
That's not.
Oh, and he was feeling it today, he said.
Wait until tomorrow. Tomorrow,
2 days after
it's going to be
brutal.
Especially if you don't train calves consistently. We did, I know, over 200 standing calf raises.
Probably for sure.
Just
He finally had to tap out just because he would, and JP was being nice. He would let him catch up. JP would blast him out. Jake would struggle, and I would count, and I'd be like, "You owe him 16." So he'd catch up those 16, and JP would be like, "Next round, go!" He'd instantly right back to it. So he finally got to the point where he just couldn't overcome it, and he was like, "I'm done."
he's such a stud, though. I mean, I love, like, and your son's the same way. Just wait until he gets a little bit older.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And Brody's like this as well,
Yeah.
Steven's son. But, Jake, and Jarrett's the same way. But Jake and Aiden are the oldest, and they're very similar, and they're close within their age. They're 13 and 17. And it's just funny because they're so bold. Like, just,
Yeah.
I mean, like Josh and Steven multiple times I'd be like, stop, because I was just like trying to egg them on a little bit to see, like, as a as the additional uncle,
Yep.
the vote-in uncle,
Yeah.
just like trying to get him to do more stuff, because there's some valuable lessons. I
Yeah.
mean, we also were like, all right, when we sat down, we talked to him about a few different things, and just running through it. But it was awesome.
Yeah.
That's so
the
good,
kid's
dude.
such a stud.
I love that, man. Yeah, that's a great wisdom too. That piece you shared about the wishing it for it to be over. Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess I don't want to. And also, I think, as you were saying, that's something that I want to be clear about, is that there's also there's like a sweetness or special. It's special in that season to know I'm in a place where I have to fully rely on the Lord to show me the next step and to help me through this next little season. Like, He's given me the vision for the things that I know I need to do. He's given me a vision for business and for Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu and I know where I'm going. But it's like, man, I got to walk through all this stuff,
You know what, and you know why. You're just trying to create the how.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's and that's one of the things from with us talking recently, and then in our group text, and then also listening to the podcast, I was like, one of the things I've completely failed is to make the time a priority for the four of us to say, all right, this is what we're doing, this is why. We all know the what and the why.
Yeah.
We need to have alignment on creating the how.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We really do, and that's one of the things that we were talking about today,
Yeah.
actually, in our group text. Is like, okay, based off of all of our crazy, insane schedules, what works best? Zoom. Honestly, I mean, we all live close to each other. But Zoom, carving out an hour to 90 minutes of just focused, dialed in intent. Again, discipline equals freedom.
Right.
If we're disciplined with that, then we can create the how. We have alignment. We have a plan. We start executing it. And here's the other cool thing. So Jeff, who was at the Pursuit Gathering, who comes to the Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu events, he's a great example, like Ryan Kramer and Anthony Kronk and Blake Gibson and Trey and all these other guys and Mike Brown that are like, I want to help. Yeah. I want to help. And so one of the things that I was thinking about when we were driving here, and this is cool that we're talking about it right now, is, we know what, we know why. We need to create the how. Once we create the how and we have alignment on that plan, we have legitimately a squad. Right. Like we have a squad of dudes. We have a platoon of pipe hitters that are like, let me help you grow the ministry. And then we have guys like Michael Bowen, who we're going to do the event in Castle Rock next month, who's legitimately like, I want to help. I want to help. Dan Wells out on the East Coast. Right. He's like, I want to help. I want to help. We have all these guys. Will Tate, who's helping create curriculum and all these things. We legit have a platoon of pipe hitters who want to grow the kingdom. We just need to be disciplined with that. Yeah. And once we have that how, the plan and alignment, it's going to be like boom, and it's gonna grow. Yeah.
So. Josh, I don't know if you had something to say, but I wanted to add to this real quick. Just so you know, like us having this conversation here on the podcast is cool because I've gotten feedback from a lot of people. And by the way, I love when you guys send me how this podcast has impacted you in your life and your walk especially. But people have always said, hey, I so appreciate y'all's vulnerability. Like to be able to talk about. I'm like, cool. I mean, this is just how we talk all the time. You guys are just listening in. But we have these kinds of conversations a lot, and I'm really thankful for that, and we're thankful we get to bring you guys into this. But yeah, we'll always be vulnerable for you, and maybe I'll tell you some stuff that'll make me embarrassed later, but it's worth it to be vulnerable. But yeah, absolutely.
Anything else on that verse?
Yeah, read that verse.
Oh again. Yeah. Sorry. So this is just a reminder: Colossians 3, verse 23 and 24. Whatever you do, work heartily, as for the Lord and not for men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the inheritance as your reward. You are serving the Lord Christ. I'm going to put it in NLT real quick, just to get
pigeon.
Please, one day.
We'll have to read that for our buddy Echo Charles. I'll have to read that from the Hawaiian Pigeon version.
The Hawaiian Pigeon version.
I'm not good at that. You know who's good at that is Matt Russell. Pursuit. He's a goober, man. We got videos of him reading like whole chapters. So I put it in NLT to read it. It says, just because it's a little, this helps just make it a little easier to understand.
A better version?
No. It's a simpler version.
Which would be better.
Potentially, yeah.
Allegedly.
Yeah. Simple.
I mean, it's definitely not a worse version if you're using it. I'm just putting
simple,
that out
clear,
there.
concise. Yeah. I just wanted to get some different flavor on it.
Flavor. There we go. There we go.
Work willingly at whatever you do, as though you were working for the Lord rather than for people. Remember that the Lord will give you an inheritance as a reward, and that the master you are serving is Christ. The piece that I love is it actually connects this. It connects the part work willingly at whatever you do, and then as though you're working for the Lord. But I like this: work willingly at whatever you do. Remember that the Lord will give you an inheritance as a reward. So it's like the other version was work heartily unto the Lord, and it says then God will give you an inheritance. It's great because it's like that's your why. Mm-hmm. So that means that no matter what happens in the course of working hard to honor God, there might not be a super nice house at the end of it. There might not be time freedom at the end of it, but there will always be glory for the Lord at the end of it, at whatever you do. And I think that's
the coolest thing. It's like, as you're saying, that inheritance.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that we've been also trying to explain to our kids. It's like, hey, and that's why we spend the extra time, and our spouses are super supportive of Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu. I mean, the time away from the podcast, the events, and now traveling and everything is they understand like we're trying to grow the kingdom, you know, and that's what, again, going back to my parents, I saw them doing that all the time, like serving at church and doing missionary trips and sending us on missionary trips when we were in high school, to go build houses for the homeless. And my dad, him and his buddy Tom Jones, and other guys from the church, and Christian men going down to the railroad tracks and ministering to the homeless, and talking to and going to like really rough areas that most people wouldn't go. And they'd go and talk about Jesus, and because trying to give, like as you said, that inheritance, like it's salvation and going to heaven and knowing that we're going to be in heaven, and that all the stuff here on the earth, like it doesn't matter, like and that's the thing, is you have to also, like, comparison is the ultimate thief of joy. Like, you can't compare what you have versus what somebody else has. Like, you can't do that. And that's hard, because I used to do that a lot. And it's just something that's
thinking that should be the inheritance that you receive for your hard work. But
well, I mean, I don't think I ever went down that road of like, hey, I'm doing all this hard work for God. Like, I never went down that way, but I did used to like compare, like, oh, they have this and I don't have this. They have that. I used to play that game. But then, like, as you just get older and you start to understand things a little bit differently, and I've been trying to be more intentional with, my relationship with the Lord, and focusing on the things that are truly important. Like, so I will say I never had that, like,
you almost
I never had that, God, why don't I have, I've never played that.
No. Well, and some people, like, I guess a real hater, they're like, this guy has it and I don't. He shouldn't have it, but I should have it.
Oh, there's that out there.
You can also justify, well, I didn't think that way. I want him to have it, and I just want to have it too.
Yeah.
But in a way, that's still like...
It's the same, Same.
Yeah. I didn't mean to derail that. One thing I did take of that, and we kind of touched on it already, was, it clearly tells you in your work to work willingly. So, like, if you are in that season of the grind, don't be a disgruntled, terrible employee. Like, first off, you are a witness for Christ.
Yeah.
And second, like, having a bad attitude has never helped anything, but it tells you to work willingly. And that also squashes any excuse to not work too. But
I know my parents, through their attitudes at work and working hard, I know factually they've led people to the Lord. Which I'm just like, dude, how awesome is that? Like,
your hard work.
My dad's, just working hard and having a good attitude, and not falling into that same attitude that a lot of guys in construction would. Right. And just being that different, like a different light, and just leading people to the Lord. And the same thing that my mom did as well, as a personal trainer, when she, she was a stay-at-home mom for the most part. It was like a hybrid. I don't know. She would work, but most of the time it was like getting us kids ready for school, and then making sure you're picking us up and spending all the time with us and stuff like that. But I mean, their attitudes, they did a really good job at that, which is cool. And I know we're probably getting close to wrapping it up on this one, but
we did get a verse from our producer here.
I thought he was going to flash a sign like, be quiet, but it was a verse.
10 more minutes.
Thanks, Lucas. You were actually really helpful here. We appreciate you. It says 1 Corinthians 10:12.
He seems surprised.
Not that we dare to classify or compare ourselves. Is this right, Lucas?
Yeah.
Not that we dare to classify or compare ourselves with some of those who are commending themselves, but when they measure themselves by one another and compare themselves with one another, they are without understanding. So it's about, he was just saying that comparison is the thief of joy. Is that what you said? Yeah. I mean, it's totally true. And the cool thing is, like, if you trust the Lord, if you have a good relationship with Him, if you're pursuing Him, then you start to, I find myself doing this as I get older, and I don't know if this is, I feel like this is the right way. This is where my heart wants to go as I'm praying, but I find myself asking for specific things less, and start saying, like, Lord, I want what you want for me. Because I've proven over and over again in my life, I actually don't, I've wanted the wrong things a lot of times,
Yes.
Yes.
And
there's a song called "Thank God for Unanswered Prayers."
Exactly. Man, so I find myself more and more asking, like, the Lord, like, all right, Lord, what do you want from me? And And yeah, but I think it's easy to compare yourself. It's easy to want things that other people have. But when you really start to pursue the Lord and you trust Him, you're like, okay, Lord, I just want whatever you have for me. Something I was explaining to my son the other day was about when you are asking God for something. There's a difference in the way that you ask with expectation because of His goodness. Instead of saying, like, it's like asking your parents, like, what's more honoring? If you told your parents, I want a bike for Christmas. I want a bike for Christmas. If I don't get a bike for Christmas, I'm going to be really upset. Or saying, hey, Mom and Dad, I love you. You're such good parents. I can't wait to see what you have for me for Christmas. Like, I can't wait. I just know it's going to be an awesome gift, whatever it is. Like, that is so much more honoring to your parents. And it's the same thing with God. And so instead of saying, hey, God, I want this very specific thing that I'm working hard for and I feel like I'm entitled to, instead of saying that, Lord,
That entitlement word.
Yeah. I know that you have something good for me. So
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
That's a really good analogy to paint that picture. And it's a really cool story to also share with my kids. I was just sitting there thinking, like, because they're trying to be more intentional and like, okay, how do we make sure our kids remain thankful and grateful? You know, because it's easy for kids to lose sight and lose, you know, and they're actively involved in our church. You know, it's cool. Our kids volunteer for the kids program to serve, and I know your guys' not yours aren't old enough yet, but you know, I know Josh's kids serve at their church as well. So they obviously have really good hearts and their intentions are good, but it's just a reminder of like, and so it's like sharing that like analogy as a story to the kids is, I think that's a really good one. I like that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna use that.
yeah.
Anything to wrap it up?
No.
Other than prayer?
Oh, so I do just want to say we have a great friend that we train jiu-jitsu with who's been a great supporter and advisor and a great spiritual help for Jesus and jiu-jitsu, Pastor Matt Chandler. We had breakfast with him recently, and one of his, you know, we are just content with doing the ministry, and we like we said, we've invested a lot into this, and we're happy to do it because we feel like God has called us to do it. But Matt's like, hey man, that's not sustainable. You guys need to have like an operating budget where you can do all of these things, and you just have. There's tons of people that want to help, like you said. So you just have to be willing to ask people for help, and so I'm going to take his advice and just say we now have a website. These guys just found out that right now. I've been working on. Okay, I've been working on it, but it should be live by the time you listen to this podcast, and it's Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu USA.com. And on the homepage there will be a donate button. There's also a donate tab where you can click that, and it will take you to the Walking in Truth page because they've been generous enough to help us set up a push pay account. So if you feel like this ministry has blessed you, if this podcast has blessed you, if that's you awesome. Are getting something from this, we would love to have your support for you to partner with us financially, whether that's like a reoccurring amount or just a one-time amount, whatever you feel the Holy Spirit's leading you to do, whatever makes sense for you and your family. So we will humbly ask you for that help, and we appreciate you so much. Thank you for listening. And you guys cool if we close out in prayer real quick?
I would love it.
Heavenly Father, we love you. We thank you for your goodness. We thank you for your word that is true and effective and right, Lord. And we hold on to this promise that and encouragement to work heartily unto you and not unto man. And that as we work for you, you have a promise. There is a promise of an inheritance for us. And Lord, ultimately, we just want to work for your glory, and so we're thankful for the opportunity that we have in each season and in each opportunity you've given us, God. Even if it's difficult, we thank you that you sustain us. We thank you for, Lord, all of our friends that listen to this podcast, and God, we just pray that you encourage them wherever they are in whatever season they are. If they're in a season of difficulty, of running 1,000,000 miles an hour like a lot of us are right now, God, that you would just bless them, comfort them, encourage them, strengthen them to do your will and to work heartily for you and for your glory. We love you, and we praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Well, this was Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu, episode 017. Thank you for listening.
Go train.